Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to What's up, everybody? Welcome to Get Book Solid. Very special Tuesday edition of Get Book Solid. Shawn Dill along with David Meltzer in the middle. It's a song, Meltzer in the middle.
It's a song.
It is now.
It is
and
now.
Lacey Book. Rare occasion where we're all three together in one space for a live. Let's make the most out of this today.
I'm looking forward to it. We've had an extraordinary Naples vacation, and it brought out for me a lot of different harmonizing issues in my personal life. Being able to hang out with friends and take some time where I kept all my non-negotiables to a minimum amount of time. Usually I'm usually adding to it, but it was really nice, and I'm ready to go. We got a active week here.
We had a whole day yesterday.
A whole day.
But
we did okay on Friday night, on Saturday, although we mixed it up more Dave Meltzer style with activities paid for, unpaid for. And I had a phenomenal weekend, and I'm looking forward to hanging out with you guys again. You just are at my vibe. And I think it's important to recognize friends that are at your vibe. And we kind of just kept saying how easy it was.
Always.
And and even with Julie, it was easy.
Hopefully Julie's watching from the airport, maybe getting on a plane. She's on the plane. She's watching on the plane. You can watch on the plane.
She's definitely not watching us on the plane.
Okay, maybe not.
She's watching a Netflix show for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
So this program is called Get Booked Solid. I thought I would start off by asking each of you the key, because you've had a lot of time of reflection. One key for people who want to get book solid. If there was one thing that they should be doing today because they want to book more business, what is the key, the one key to getting booked solid for you?
Do more things that are in your zone of genius.
Oh,
I think that's really important. I think a lot of us try to force ourselves inside of a box of things that we think we should do in order to get booked, in order to get paid. Granted, there's a lot of things that you need to do that you're not going to love, that aren't going to fill you up, that just come along with being an entrepreneur. But when it comes to the core offering that you have to do what's within your zone of genius. Not something somebody else told you to do in the way they think you should do it, because that's where that inauthenticity comes from. And that's where it becomes difficult in business. I think you hit a lot of roadblocks, a lot of resistance. It doesn't feel easy when you're not doing something that you truly are good at, but more importantly, that fills you up.
That is awesome. For me, it's simple. Because of the total addressable community that exists in any industry, job, and career today, any subject matter, topic, or expertise today, it's getting people to get back to you. So no matter where you are today, if you get twice as many people to get back to you, utilizing the same methods that you use today, mathematically, there's no doubt you'll double the amount of business you can, or double the amount of booked appointments that you have, whatever Get Booked Solid means to you. So I always give that simple piece of advice. Why don't you focus in on what really quantitatively makes a difference? And it only works today because the total addressable community is so large. When I was in Knox, Indiana, and there's 300,000 people, that's it. You're screwed. You can't even be yourself, because if people don't like you, you don't have enough people to compensate on the other side. So get people to get back to you in person, on the phone, email, or media.
Let's just start there. So I want to come back to Zone of Genius, because you have a whole training on how to get people to get back to you. So how do I look? There's cold DMs, there's email, outbound emails, there's text services. I mean, and I agree, getting someone to get back to you is the most precious commodity that there is in business. If you don't get back to me, there can be no movement. There cannot even be collaboration. There can definitely not be transactional value. None of that. So how do you get people to get back to you?
We stay focused with a definite purpose of I'm only calling, DMing, emailing you in order for you to get back to me. So you use value as it's derived by giving someone more of what they like or taking away what they don't like. I prefer to use interest. So I don't know anyone that won't call me back if I called you and said, hey, I'm interested in signing up for your culture club. Are you going to call me back?
Yeah, of course.
And can I be authentic and say I'm really interested?
Right.
It's just a matter of price.
Right.
So I hold the control of being someone to get people to get back to me. It doesn't mean I can't transition your interest in me signing up for Culture Club to you signing up for my private networking group. And I think too many people get caught up on selling on answer machines, selling on emails, selling on videos, instead of just saying, what I really want is to be more interested than interesting, get you to call me back, and then be an expert in transitioning interest to an authentic man. I don't lie. I'll call anyone and tell them I'm interested in buying their stuff. And they will all get back to me. And
For sure.
I am interested in buying them stuff for a price.
Right.
And it may be a penny, but I'm interested. I'm interested in buying your car.
Right. It's not a penny though. I'm
I
sorry.
know, but I'm
I
interested
hate to
for a
break it
penny.
to you. I love your answer, because I do see that people have difficulty getting people to get back to them. And it's not just because they're not giving them the interest, right? But because they don't have good follow-up systems in place. Frankly, a lot of people are, and I hate to say it, but if this triggers you, you may need to look inward. I hate when people are sloppy with their leads.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is it's not organized, right? If you're actually getting a lot of leads, you have to have an organized system in order to have proper follow-up. Because if you don't, opportunity falls through the cracks. That's just the reality of it. Because that's great. I want to reach out to somebody and say, hey, I'm interested in your thing. Will you call me back? But if they don't call me back right away, I still want to reach out to them again, right? But if I don't have a system in place, more than likely, if I'm managing a lot of potential relationships, I'm not going to manage them well, and I'm not going to be able to manage them all. And that's lost opportunity. So you've got to have a system. You've got to clean up your follow-up systems. You've got to get organized. And then you actually have to not be shy about the follow-up. I always say too, people reach out to you because they are interested in something that you have to provide. And for some reason, we think that we should only reach back out to them one time because we don't want to be too aggressive, or, we don't want to reach out too much and rub them the wrong way. But they were like, hey, I'm over here raising my hand. I like what you've got. And then you do them a disservice by only reaching out one time, right? So follow-up systems, organization, and do it more than once.
I have a lot to say on that. I'm going to squeeze it down. One, I wish I could remember the social media account.
Squeeze it down,
because I love to give credit where credit is due. There's a sales trainer in the insurance world that talks about, and this is very popular conversation now, that if you're generating a lot of leads, a lot of people are talking about the value of having somebody whose sole job is to answer leads. We have a lot of information coming out, a lot of research coming out about what we talk about as velocity to transaction, the space between that hand raise and when you respond to them. And they're finding out that the actual optimal number is 5 minutes, which that's crazy, right? So for a lot of people, we're on super slow motion. I know so many people
Compared
that
to
might
that,
respond in 24 hours, but they're saying there's a diminishing interest when we talk about stimulating interest after 5 minutes. And one of my arguments, and research hasn't proven this, but I don't know that they've even looked at this, is that the reason is because people can sign up for multiple things. If I was looking for mentorship or coaching, I clicked on Dave's thing, then I clicked on Gary Vee, then I clicked on Ed Milet, then so I was clicking on all these people's things, and I'm just sitting there until one of them responds back to me. The first person that comes back to me will be the one that garners or stimulated my interest, and now we can have further conversation. And if Dave got back to me first, it's not like the other ones I'm no longer interested in. I'm just more interested in him because he has shown interest in me. Be more interested than interesting. But the second thing is that man that teaches sales and insurance talks about a follow-up system. Same thing, that he has a person that's dedicated to follow-up. And I find this super interesting. You can find the social media post out there where he says, my lead person calls the person. So they have requested a quote. I need an insurance quote. He says, we call them back 27 times over the next 3 days. That is 9 times per day. Now, in the comments, people are saying Oh my God, that's
Oh,
crazy.
You know, everybody just thought to themselves, that's a lot.
Yeah,
Like, I
and
think
people are saying,
that-
if you ever called me 27 times, I would never do business with
Right.
you. But there are other comments saying, listen, if you'd have answered the phone, you wouldn't know about the other 25 times if you answered on the second time. The thing is, it's a follow-up system. And to your point, like maybe it's 27 times over 2 weeks.
Right.
But the point is, it's a lot of times of follow-up. They don't just give up because you were at your son's little league game or it wasn't convenient for you to pick up the phone. They're literally saying, listen, you wanted this quote. And what I like too is at the end, then and David and I had this conversation over these last couple of days. Then they say, the time must not be right for you. After I've called you 27 times, you might not want the quote anymore. You obviously found someone else to service you. So we're no longer going to call you, but I did want you to know that we have your quote and we're not going to bother you anymore. We've called you 27 times in 3 days. So I think all of those things are super important.
Yeah, I think understanding your own business, I created a 3-no rule under the guise of this, of calling in immediately, though. If people thought I was crazy, like how much time do you think salespeople worry about when I should call them back?
Right.
And then they don't call them back.
Yeah.
But more importantly, mine was simply, if you have a 9 a.m. call and they don't answer, then I'm calling at least by 5 p.m. the second time, and then the next morning at 9. If they don't answer, I'm simply saying it's not the right time. When it is, call me back.
Right.
That's the system that's applicable to what I do, because they do go down and look at Ed, me, Tom, Bill, you, and Gary, and I'm the only one that personally calls them back. Now, I will tell you, under the guise of 27 calls, it's going to be part of my system as AI gets better, because right now I have a human being that'll say, hey, if they answer, oh, hold on, I got Dave Meltzer, he's waiting on the other line.
Right.
That's something AI can do for you very easily. And then it actually can conference me in. It's not quite there yet, but when it will be, I think I might move to, because it's AI, calling 27 times sounds perfect to me.
Right.
And then me being able to, if they don't answer, just say after 20, because this is AI as well, hey, it's not the right time. When it is, Mr. Meltzer, here's his cell phone number, give him a call.
Yeah.
So I agree 100% to the fact that you need to align your system to the business that you're in, the industry that you're in, because it is variable. We bought tickets yesterday to go on our trip together, and the guy notice that he got right back to us, and he closed the deal. The other company that Julie was looking at, my wife, got back this morning. They may have had a better deal. What we're going to do. And it was definitely, we were going with the lowest price, right? It had no service involved. And we ended up tipping the guy $100 for doing it.
And it is interesting. Like I was thinking about this while you were talking. So we have an investment property that had the unit above us leaked down into our unit, right? And I have been so busy, and somebody referred me to a mold mitigation specialist, come out there and make sure everything's okay. And literally the guy has probably called me at this point 10 times. And he called the HOA president and the property manager saying, I'm trying to get a hold of this lady. Like, he's like, listen, you might have mold. In his message, he said, you might have mold in your unit. This is clearly very important for you to get checked out. And I'm the best that there is. You need to call me back. Like, he had no problem. And it's in the message, no problem reaching out to me. Because also I raised my hand and I said, I need this. So he's like, I'm just going to call until you tell me no. Right. I mean, that's kind of the premise. And it doesn't feel aggressive to me. I'm like, man, I'm such a butthead. I haven't called this guy back, but I've just been busy. Right.
Well, I like
what happens
that.
to your prospects?
Well, I like that, because that was the second piece to this. And then I want to come to Zone of Genius. Is the example that you gave for a lot of people that are trying to get booked solid. You can say like, hey, I'm interested in Culture Club. I'm interested in the private networking group. And I can elicit a call back. But if it was just a person, a lay person, they're not selling anything. They have a 9-to-5 job. Right. And that was great. Well, this is also too what I find in our businesses. The people, when we ask our front desk people, hey, so here's a list of inactive patients or clients, and why don't we call them? What they do, nobody answers on the first time because they don't recognize the phone number, right? So then what they do is they leave a voicemail that tries to sell them. Hey, David, I was calling because I have a super great $99 special. When you called before, you wanted, it was $500, but now it's $99. So give us a call back. And they think that's why they'll call back. And I tell them, well, that's not why they would call back. You'd have to say something like that. Like, hey, listen, sounds like you have mold. This clearly is important. We need to resolve this. You have to call me back.
Right.
Or in healthcare, listen, I wanted to call to speak to you about your blood sugar. We were just reviewing your file and we noticed something and I'd like to have a conversation. Well, of course, that person's calling back.
Versus,
Versus I have this sales thing.
special
Let me
offer.
sell you this
Yeah.
thing. And so I agree. And that's so great because so many of us, we only see our outbound efforts in the realm of, I've just got to sell them something versus I've got to get them to call me back.
Right.
Yeah, remember the three things that happen every time you raise your hand. The instant after you raise your hand is time will change, emotion will change, which as for you, you raised your hand and said, I need a mold restoration company, or value will change.
Right.
And so the value is the prioritization according to how important it is that mold doesn't form in your unit.
Right.
And what he is doing in his response to you, his message, is he's utilizing time to his favor. He utilizes emotion to his favor and even value.
Right.
And so if you can incorporate time, value, and emotion and still leave it open-ended that you understand that time, value, and emotion may change when it is the right time, although I suggest you do it fairly quickly.
I know.
Let me know because I'm the best.
Yes.
That was my favorite thing that he said.
Yeah,
let me know because
I'm
I'm the best.
Yeah.
And guess what? He's proving it.
Yeah.
Because he's followed up.
And
so
that
many
was
times.
since Thursday, you know, I mean, like it hasn't been that long, but he's like, look, I'm calling you because you need me. Right. And I think that is important. We all have to remember, especially as service providers and entrepreneurs, like people need us. And if they are inclined enough to raise their hand, they definitely need you, because most people aren't even going to say, I need help. Right. So somebody that's out there that's like, I really think I'm interested in how you can help me. That's a big deal.
I want to go to Zone of Genius. You talked about that, and you talk about Zone of Genius a lot. You sometimes frame it as things I'm good at and I like doing or I love doing. Initially, as an entrepreneur, we have to do all the things. So we kind of have to get, so your number one tip was stay in my zone of genius. But then what about the things that, I mean, my zone of genius is in this case, not selling. My zone of, I don't like to sell. I don't like to call people back. I'm not very good at getting them to call me back. I think about when the right time is. So obviously you would say like, okay, well, delegate, right? Just, outsource that. But maybe I can't afford to do that. Give me some tips of how I can amplify my zone of genius while also at the same time minimizing my weaknesses.
Well, first off, Zone of Genius is not my concept. That's that book, The Big Leap, right? Do you remember that book? Who's it? Hendricks or something? I haven't read it in so long, but all I remember that stuck out to me about those concepts is there's your zone of excellence, which is like something that you're really great at and other people perceive and see your greatness in it. But your zone of genius is the thing that you are amazing at that fills you up. So like sometimes we do things that we're really, really good at, but it's not the thing for us, right? And so that's what that is. But so you said amplify your zone of genius. What did you say?
You said stay in our zone of genius, but we can't practically do that on the road
absolutely
to
not.
getting book solid. So what about all these other buckets that are not my zone of genius? We can convince ourselves that that's why my business sucks. I just don't like selling. I'm very creative. That's why my website's great. I did my own website, but I don't sell anything. But that's not going to get me to book solid.
Well, number one, you have to figure out how to be great at all the things that are pertinent to your business so that you can transfer and translate that knowledge into somebody else to be able to help you. Obviously, you don't have to be 100%. I'm never going to be the best salesperson on the planet. There could be other people that are better at sales than me that I eventually want to hire, but I need to be able to articulate and translate the value of what I do from a sales perspective in order to have a great salesperson be able to do that for others. So you need to figure out how to do the things in your business well enough that you can find the right people that can do it better than you, but you have to be able to translate the knowledge. So number one, you got to kind of suck it up. But number two, we talked about this over the weekend with some of our docs. People have a tendency to, for the things that they don't love to do, they have a tendency to say, oh, that's really hard. It's hard to do that. It's hard to find time to get that in my schedule. It's hard to ... fill in the blank. And I always say people just love to attach the word hard to things that they don't like, or to things that they don't want to figure out because it's not in their zone of genius. They're like, why do I have to learn how to look at the books for my business, right? Why do I have to do the data input? Why do I have to sell? That stuff's hard for me because that's not what I was taught to do. Well, you've got to figure it out. It's not hard. You just haven't given it the time and the space and the intention that's necessary to learn it well enough until you get to a place where you can hand it off. That's just my thought.
And aligned with that, and I love giving a different vernacular to
Yes.
the same thought, and I feel in this case it's very much that way. If you consider love the expression of genius, genius is the expression of God. God is equal to love. And so in the expression of genius, or an expression of God, this genius incorporates loving what you do.
Mhm.
Now, excellence to me is aligning the skills, knowledge, and my desire with what's doing well, what's stable, and what you think is doing well. That seems to be a great position in pragmatic
Sure.
world, to be excellent at what you do. But this idea of the expression of God, I think, tends or lends for me to have people focus in on learning to love what you do. And as you know, one of my mentors taught me, if we learn to love what you don't like or love, the hard things, as you suggest to the doctors this weekend, or you learn to love what other people don't like or love, because there's greater value in being able to be really good or be loving at what other people don't like, because they'll pay you more.
Right.
But we pay more for people to clean our toilets,
Right.
not because it's difficult, because we definitely don't want to
do it ourselves.
Right?
Yeah. Fair.
Right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So when we look at this idea of amplifying this genius, this expression of God, the expression of genius, I would help to, or hope to, I should say, encourage people to learn to love what you don't like or love, learn to love what other people don't like or love, and then try to align, because you have to do everything as an entrepreneur.
You do.
You can't afford, I still can't afford to pay everybody to do everything I don't like or love.
Right.
Right. Because I would pay someone to worry for me.
Right.
But I can't afford it. And I don't know anyone that would do it. But more importantly, if we do that, I think you'll find some great amplification of value in what we do, and a lot more energy at what we do, because we're really not concerned about what we're doing. We're always concerned about, how do I learn to love what I'm doing?
How do you learn to love the things that you don't love? I mean, I think that's
know
also
practice. I
yeah.
think, and I go back to this a lot, and people might think I'm annoying because I'm repetitive and honest. I think in order to do that, you need to be comfortable and confident. That's two qualities of loving something. I'm very comfortable, very confident in playing golf. Therefore, I love golf.
Right.
Right. And other people may find they can learn to do that by practicing it. So they see they're not good at it,
Right.
but they love golf because they practice being comfortable and confident in golf. And so practice, consistent, persistent pursuit of that potential.
We talked about this at lunch. I also think that, yes,
At the
practice at Seed to Table.
Yes. If you haven't been to the Seed to Table, we're looking for you to go there. A free sponsorship from Dave Meltzer.
This idea of practice, but this also this idea of being more God-like. So if you're going to use that same analogy, then the judgment, the fear is what interferes with us from being able to love those things. If we take it to like people, so if I thought that, well, you at Seed to Table don't believe the way that I believe, now I can begin to not love you because of a belief. Right. But it has nothing to do that I don't actually love you, because if I was more godlike, I wouldn't care what you believed.
Right.
I wouldn't care what color your skin was, right? What shirt you were wearing, or what pillow you use. I wouldn't care about any of those things. And so that's interesting too, because then there's all of these things in business that we have learned to not love,
right?
Versus just looking at it, it just is what it is. And that goes back to, it's not hard. That's one of the reasons why we're trying to justify why we don't love it. Oh, I don't love making these, direct outreach calls because it's so hard.
Right.
You just don't love it. But if you could lose that attachment, that fear, because really what you don't want is to be the fear of being rejected, right? So you don't want to call them because the people are going to tell you no. And in that realm, you're going to get way more no's than yeses. So now I've convinced myself that I hate it. I hate doing it. And so now it makes it easy because I'm like, well, it's hard. And if you would just be more godlike, all of these things that we have to do as entrepreneurs, they're just tasks. They're just these things. There's no actual even emotion. In fact, I was telling one of my clients today earlier, like, there's no emotion in this. Even if I am Dave's client and I'm like, Dave, that like I thought that if I worked with you, I would make $100,000 a month. And you were like, okay, well, why did you think that? I was like, well, I don't know. I was like looking at some of your other clients and I thought that I'd be like them. But that's not a reasonable expectation, but that's not his fault.
Right.
But it is easy for him to then become emotional towards me and be like, Shawn, you idiot. Like, what person would think that? And now I can then become emotional back. And I see that all the time. I had a client tell me, like, should I just get rid of that person? And I was like, because they had an expectation.
Right.
No, they're emotional. Why would we respond emotionally back to that? And if we were just more godlike, we would just be like, well, listen, I love you. It's kind of a unrealistic expectation. So let's just go back and set that, because I have to make my direct outreach calls. And after this call, I need to clean the toilet. Right? It's just things that you have to do that you don't have to attach that love or hate to. Just see it purely for what it is.
Well, in that emotion, not to steal the mic.
No, I know. I knew
I
you.
feel like
I
was
could
like
see
there.
you had something. I know.
Yeah,
I was
no,
like,
I did. Sometimes I'm on it, and it's easier to see on the screen. Having you guys here, because I can see your emotions. It is interesting too, but there's a prioritization process, not only in the activities, like you mentioned, from cleaning the toilet, cold calling, things that people don't like or love, but there's also prioritization of people. So within the context that I found, that if someone has unrealistic expectations or project their insecurities on you, or have attacking thoughts, attacking words, attacking actions, feelings, and beliefs about you, you have to make a conscious decision that I only have so much time for so many people.
Yes.
And I talk about the relativity of people by these three aspects of how relative are you to me, what's our association, and then how much am I being fed by the bleeding and feeding that occurs in a relationship.
Right.
And that has changed since I've known you guys.
Yes.
Because remember, it used to be what feeds you, feed it, what bleeds you.
And now there is bleeding and feeding in every relationship.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and
so true.
Which is through repetition and learning myself. To that idea, please prioritize it and know what's important to you, not just with these situations and activities, but also the people that you surround yourself with. Because it is fair enough not to be emotional about it. But in those situations, which do occur, when you're a high-end, high-ticket position in consulting or coaching, it's going to occur that people's expectations are mismanaged because they mirror what other people's successes are with you. And you have to be able to be unemotional in your response and say, look, this is not an association or relativity that I want. It's not feeding me from the bleeding or the feeding aspect of it. I'd like to move on, right? Can you see any reason you won't want to work with somebody else that could meet your expectations? Which is also why I think it's important, where possible, not always possible, which is like the overlap agreement compared to a referral fee. Sometimes you need a written agreement that's binding. But if you can build your business around non-binding opportunities where you can say, you know what, this didn't work out for your expectation, I didn't meet those.
Right.
Here's your money back, and give a period of time that you're willing to do that under, so that you're not taken advantage of.
But isn't that what it all comes down to, is just clarity, right? Like what you're talking about is clarity on understanding what kind of energy you're going to put into a relationship and what kind of energy you're going to allow back at you from that relationship, which I think is really important. And it could be any relationship, business relationship, personal relationship, you name it. But even what we were talking about earlier, like all of these things that you don't love yet doing, that you don't want to do, and that people have a hard time doing, it also comes back to clarity, right? Because you don't understand how doing those things can impact your future self if you learn to love them, right? And I think that that's always what it is. I know that being in my zone of genius will impact my future because it's the thing that's supposed to generate all this revenue and change my life and change others' lives. But it's also those things that you haven't learned to love yet that will impact you in the same way. You just haven't bridged it. You haven't had the clarity of understanding around how a certain relationship, how scrubbing the toilets, how doing the books can impact your future self in the same way your zone of genius and area of expertise and excellence can. So it always comes back to bridging, clarity, understanding of what you want, what you desire, and how you get there.
Very good stuff today. Hopefully some practical tools to help all of you to get booked solid. We want to help you to reach more people, make an even bigger impact. And of course, along with that comes the lifestyle that you deserve for serving humanity. Speaking of that, You are off on a tour
We-
starting tomorrow.
We are on a
I
tour.
said 8 cities. This is, I don't know what number this is, but going to Fort Lauderdale and Miami with you tomorrow, and
Boca.
Lacey
And Boca. We got 3 cities.
Tell people where they can find us.
Yeah, please join us. We'll be in Boca and Miami tomorrow. So join us for the $100 million Mastermind Elevator Nights at Aspire Influencer Party. And then, of course, dominated by Aspire, Gary V, me, Kim Perrell, Dr. Shawn Dill, and Dr. Lacey Book. All of us will be there at Aspire. I'll be on the main stage in the morning. Then we'll have the VIP Diamond Lunch. We'll all be there. Then we'll have a meetup. And then, of course, already sold out, standing room only VIP dinner on Wednesday night. Then I'm off to South by Southwest, which I'd love for you to join me at as well. And then the next week, it'll be Nashville, New York, Orange County, and Vegas, which you will be at in Vegas as well. Maybe I can entice you to join me. Otherwise, we're looking for properties here in Naples. You hear that, my wife? We'll see how that
We
works
love
out for
you.
me. And I just wanted to tell everyone out there, the hostess and the host with the most are my friends, Dr. Shawn Dill and Dr. Lacey Book. This is an amazing experience, and I'm blessed to have them both as friends. So thank you.
All right, everybody, let's do it again next week, but on a Tuesday. We'll be bright and early next Tuesday morning. Tell your friends, get booked solid. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to